I'm Andy Thatcher, and I own Rimrock Flower Farm here in Roundup, and we are a specialty cut flower farm. The way that I like to describe it is we're a farmer florist, and most people have not heard that term, but we're a florist in the traditional sense, and then in the months of May through September, October, we grow all of our own flowers. And so anyone who's using us as their floral designer, if they're ordering flowers from our website, is able to get these flowers that are grown right here in Montana. Because we are in the wedding industry, something that makes us stand out a little bit different than another wedding florist is that we are providing these flowers that people have never seen before. Maybe they like that color or that shape, but it's a flower that doesn't ship very well. And so the only way you're gonna have that in your bridal bouquet is if you're finding it from a local grower. Like 80% of cut flowers that people see throughout the United States are actually imported from outside of the United States. And there's been a huge movement over the last 30, 40 years to change that. And the Montana Cut Flower Association is something that we started a handful of years ago in order to give Montana flower producer a larger collective voice. We have tons of growers here in Montana. In our association, we've got about 45, but there are probably upwards of 70 growers throughout the state. And I think the average consumer does not know that they can source cut flowers, really high quality, beautiful, unique cut flowers from right here in the state. So something that might set us apart from some other producers are we do have a couple varieties that are specific to Rimrock Flower Farm. So we've done a little bit of breeding with dahlias and a little bit of breeding with zinnias. And so what we'll do with dahlias specifically is we will grow seedlings from seed. Normally a dahlia is grown from a tuber that looks like a little potato. It's like a bulb. You grow that and it always blooms the same color. From a seed, it has all of the genetics of whatever its seed parent was and whoever was pollinated with that. So we'll take the seeds, grow them out, and then we will select certain colors and forms and petal structures to fit into our needs, being primarily weddings. So it'll be really exciting to have some of our Rimrock, Montana grown dahlias going out to market for people to say, like, I grow a Montana dahlia. Early in our flower farming endeavors, we did not want to go into the wedding industry. Even though I loved it, it was really difficult for us to be able to house the flowers appropriately and make sure that, we made them on Monday and they lasted until Saturday. Without a cooler space, you cannot do that. And so in our early years, we wrote a grant and were able to get funding for a walk-in cooler. We had help from our local food and agricultural development center. And in this grant writing process, we were successful and were able to get the funds to build a cooler that completely changed our whole business model. If someone were thinking about going into cut flower production, my number one tip would be to start small. When folks are thinking about agriculture, especially in Montana, they think of several hundred acres of wheat or barley. With cut flowers, we are planting in such a way with very high density that you can produce a ton off a very small amount of land. We only grow on 1 acre, and it's almost too much for us to keep up with a 1.5, 2-person team, and we're able to make a living off of it. One avenue that a cut flower producer could go into would be the agritourism world. So in Montana, tourism is huge. It's one of our largest commodities. We own something by default that is so amazing that if anyone would want to come and see. And then there's the other end of that spectrum where you're creating maybe a luxury product out of that, where you're bringing in a charcuterie company or a caterer, or you're doing a farm to table dinner right there on property, and it's the same thing. They're still cutting the flowers. Maybe yourself as the flower farmer, or you're bringing in a floral designer, could host a class where they're cutting the flowers and teaching an arranging class right there on site. I think the possibilities are kind of endless, especially with flowers.